topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Wednesday, hump day, and welcome to Triversity Talk. I am Wendy Stewart Kaplan, and tonight's guest co-host is the one and only
Evan Lawrence.
Yes, coming to you live. How are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing well. I mean, it's 90 degrees out there, so I'm making sure I move in slow motion.
Did you come on here to complain about the weather, Evan?
Yes, that actually, yes, but only 1%.
Feel free, Evan, because you know what? This is my secret. Mr. Fan, that's right, everybody. I have air conditioning, but I have to tell you this little $12, it's an O2 cool fan, and you can use it with batteries because we're also electricity conscious nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Our electrical bills are going through the roof, and everyone uses, it's a pandemic, it's a supply chain. Right. It's insane, right? So I just put D batteries in here, which I buy on eBay, right? Regular battery, but I get them at a good price. And the fan is just absolutely unbelievable. I'm sitting here cool as a cucumber, Evan Lawrence. Do you hear me complaining? No, I don't. Because I am cool and collected this evening. So you have a bunch of shows coming up this week.
I do. I'm at Stonewall tomorrow night, performing at the 5th anniversary of Freak Out.
Yay!
I'm going to be doing a disco song from the 70s and a song of mine called 70s Crotch Outline.
Oh, yes, that was a big hit when you did it for the Imperial Court of New York. So I'm coming tomorrow night, and I'm excited to get to hear that song again. And Freak Out, of course, for those of you who don't know, Chauncey Dandridge, who is a huge part of our community and was just honored by the Imperial Court of New York. Chauncey produces this unbelievably creative show, which during the pandemic, some of the most brilliant work I saw, I was talking about this with my husband, Alan, that the most brilliant work I saw was done on Zoom during the pandemic. You all did a show about clowns, right? And everyone knows how scary.
Yes, I was thinking about that today. That's funny.
Remember how great that show was? All the visuals and everything in that?
It was so good. And I actually tried on my clown outfit today because
of course you did.
Today, of all things, and took a few pictures. Yeah.
How did you look in your clown outfit, Evan Lawrence?
It needed the makeup. I mean, I thought it looked really great. I love the shape of it, but I missed my nose.
Right. You need the nose, you need the makeup, you need the whole clown rigmarole. Well, since you mentioned, you're doing a disco number at Freak Out, you really set something off in my head. I was on the Jelly Bean Benitez disco cruise. For those of you who remember, Jelly Bean was the DJ that got Madonna started, like how many decades ago? Like almost 5 decades ago.
Yes.
Can you believe that? At Danceteria. And he played, I think her first hit was Borderline. So for all you Madonna fans out there, I was on the Jelly Bean Benitez cruise. Of course, not one Madonna song was going to be played because we know it didn't end well. It absolutely did not. It's the truth of it, right? Do I ever lie? I put my cards on the table. So I am very creatively inspired tonight. My guest co-host, of course, Evan Lawrence, is not only a performer, he's a designer, he's a producer, and a writer. And I thought to myself, who would be the perfect co-host for our next guest? Well, our next guest is someone I met at a party. I met this person at the Q Club in New York City, which for those of you who don't know, it's a 5-story, beautiful mega club. And our friend and my co-host on my Wednesday show, If These Walls Could Talk, Tim Moss, had his birthday there. And I started talking to this guy, and he had beautiful gauges in his ears. And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a designer. And I'm like, oh, do you have a card? And he gave me his card. Okay. And his name is Jae Breslow. His company is Odd Mod Creations. But you want to know the coolest thing I want to talk about tonight with Odd Mod Creations? Jae, who is a visual artist and a musician, created this company from the isolation of the pandemic. So I can't think of a better way to use like such a tumultuous time that so many of us have gone through and are still going through. So
and we all reinvented ourselves too.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Exactly. So we are here tonight to talk about Jae Breslow's reinvention. Please come on in.
Hi, Jae.
How are you doing tonight, Jae?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. And it's really great to have you on tonight.
Thank
So, I just want to start off the bat just talking about what Odd Mod Creations is before I get into, who you are and what you're about. So, fire away.
So Odd Mod Creations is kind of a coupling between my interest in fashion and luxury jewelry and handmade from the heart personal expression.
I love that. I love that. What is it about the way you create this jewelry that makes it from the heart?
I think there's a lot of energy. There's a meticulous, repetitious nature to it. So you kind of like zone in and really, you don't have to think about all of the things around you. And I know with the pandemic, a lot of people did a lot of thinking about everything.
Right. Well, obviously you were doing thinking too. So, what happened? I mean, we were shut down March 12th in the New York area. And for all of those that are in the arts, or many of us in the arts, it's very hard for people to wrap their head around having everything you've done your entire life coming to a crashing halt and not knowing what was going to come and replace it. So, Jae, what was your experience?
Well, it was at a point where I was just starting to do more local friendships and things started blossoming. And all of a sudden, pandemic happened and everything just kind of collapsed in on itself. And my first thought was, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. I'm an extrovert. I am trying to be social and just kind of get into the swing of a good, solid path of life,
Right.
And then that didn't happen.
Right. What were you doing prior to the pandemic? I know that you're an artist and a musician. What kinds of things were you doing?
Well, I was doing ink drawings and some electronic music and production, things like that. As far as my creative outlets are concerned.
Right. So you had gotten that all going. And by the way, I didn't know you did EDM. I love electronic music. So there you go. You do these shows and I find out things, that I never get from people in person.
And
yes.
Well, I work full time, but it's one of those things where you want work to be work and you want social life and free time and creative energy. And that's supposed to be its own thing. And that was what got really shattered and destroyed with the pandemic the most.
Shattered, Jae, really. Evan, you can totally jump in on that. I'm listening to what he's saying.
Yeah, I totally recreated myself during the pandemic and said for my creativity, just let it go where it has to go and compose some of my best electronic music during that time as well. But what spurred you? What was it a revelation? Was it anything obvious that brought you to make your beautiful jewelry?
Well, thank you. No, it wasn't obvious. I tried music first. I went to okay, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of words in my head. I can try to write music. And every time I would sit down at, the computer or the notebook or whatever, I felt a lot at once and no way to put it to words. I think it was just an overwhelming fear of, I have no idea when this is going to end, and kind of getting lost within myself. Sorry about that. Kind of getting lost within myself. And so I wasn't making music. So drawing was another possibility, but I to be honest, I was just very down, depressed. I had a wall. I had a creative wall. I had a personal wall.
So understandable.
I'm really glad that you're talking about this, because this was true for so many people in our community, people whose names I could tell you that you've heard of, that were, performing and making music and all of that. And honestly, the last 2 years for them has been very, very difficult. What did you tell yourself, Jae, to move on from these thoughts? Because you're right. All of a sudden, our hands were tied. We felt completely helpless. What did you tell yourself?
Well, so I'm used to pre-pandemic. I was pretty much getting my feedback on how well I thought I was doing by being around other people, like a true extrovert. And then all of a sudden being forced to rely on my own self for feedback, for knowing, okay, hey, Jae, you're doing okay. I didn't have anybody but myself to do that. And I'm not used to doing that.
Right.
So what ended up happening was a friend had taught me, how to weave chainmail and that sort of art form. And I, putted around with it a little bit and put it down, and picked it up one day and put it around a little more and was like, okay, this is interesting. I didn't have to think about anything. I just did it. And when you do something that's repetitive and meticulous, but also creative, it was kind of like almost like an exercise in meditation.
Yeah.
But when you're done, you are holding like a tangible, complete thing. It is something, it exists, it's tangible, and it's feedback. It's its own feedback. So
that is so brilliant, because right now you don't have the approval of the people around you. You have the actual approval of the very thing that you created. And my gosh, that's a lot more powerful, isn't it? Because you created it.
And that sort of set the tone and the path for the next couple of years. I did that, and then I decided to create other more repetitious routines and habits, and it set a course for weight loss and just overall health and routine and sleep patterns. It just kind of all blended together to this unreal level of stability, I guess, would be the best way to think about it.
Creating stability from really the most chaotic instability that a person could go through, the whole not knowing. Now, this is amazing, because I'm all set to talk to you about your incredible jewelry, and we will, but now you've hit on all these other things. You really hit on self-care, right? Let's talk about weight loss. What prompted you? How did you end up looking at yourself and deciding, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this?
Well, I had no other source of feedback. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, the only person I'm going to be able to look at and talk to for the next who knows how long is myself. So, that's really the first step, was like, okay, who's the only person that I have to deal with for the next 2 years? Me. So I got to like what I see, and let's start somewhere.
That's kind of scary.
Terrifying, but less terrifying than thinking about how I'm going to do everything with nothing.
The scary thing is that I think is the silence of it all, because you have to really listen, and you're forced to listen and look at yourself and hear those things that you do in between moments that you may like or not like,
and doubt. The indefinite nature of anything is kind of what creates anxiety to begin with. So, right. Between the actual pandemic effect and the unknown, the sort of indefinite period of that, that was almost worse. is kind of like, okay, so here we are. This is terrible, but for how long? So, okay, I need to do something with that. And that's kind of what happens just overall.
It's interesting to me, Jay, that you, like, after this initial terror and anxiety, you were able to do something with it, because there are a lot of people that have been shut down. They're still shut down from like all of this. So I guess in a sense you're lucky that you had an epiphany and figured out a way to kind of move past this. Now you talked about chainmail, you called it, yeah?
Yeah.
So I actually, I think, heard that term maybe from you, Evan Lawrence, or
Well,
some.
I have a whole set of real chainmail, which weighs like 300 pounds, and I'm not going to wear it because I'm claustrophobic, actually. And I also have a chainmail jockstrap as well.
Thank
Oddly
you for
enough.
sharing that with us,
But,
Evan.
but I have to say about chainmail is what I really love about it is it has an ancient, antique, and classic feel, and I'd like to hear about that from you. I mean, there's
Well, so the thing about it was, initially when I learned it from my friends, it was very much it's armor, it's a helmet. You know, there are things that are more associated with medieval and
Right.
fantasy, things like that. And while that's all well and good, and while those patterns are fun to make, it was not something that I could apply to myself. And when I was figuring in, okay, I'm losing weight. What am I going to wear? What am I going to wear with the things that I can now wear? And I found the selection of jewelry that I could wear kind of limiting. I didn't see a lot of the things that I wanted to wear available. And knowing that if I took the scale of, the sizes of the rings, and I learned a few new techniques and things like that, I could make them smaller. I could make them more artsy and jewelry oriented, and not and kind of separate it slightly from that sort of fantasy niche that it's normally associated.
like you're not going to buy it from Jared's or
Well, I mean, you're not going to buy it from Jared's, but I do use precious stones. So
well, I love that, and I really am drooling over your birthstone necklaces.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
love those.
Thank you.
Yeah, they are absolutely beautiful. Evan, I don't know what Jared's is. Clue me in here.
Oh, it's like one of these jewelry shops you'll find at the mall, where you could buy little additions to your friendship bracelet, or at like a corny.
Got it. Yeah,
Clusters of diamonds, really tacky, and
it's like Claire's, but for adults.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't know if it had something to do with, because we were talking about that whole medieval looking stuff. And Jay, Evan creates things that are often they are medieval inspired. There's definitely a lot of inspiration behind doing that kind of work. So these what you're calling chainmail, right, are really it's small gold chains, right?
Well, so it's chainmail because you're linking together these single rings, they're basically jump rings, and you're interlocking them in different ways, and it creates different patterns. And it's more of the patterns themselves that I found lent themselves to jewelry when I found those particular, weave techniques to make them do, like I was saying, atypical than just your sheet or sheath of mail.
Wow. So when would you say, like, we're talking now, we're going into the third year. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that, of this pandemic. When did you start your first creations?
Oh, wow. It feels like everything's kind of blurred together at this point.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes.
It's probably a couple of years ago at this point. It wasn't initially intended to be what it's become. It's kind of taken on a life of its own.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I mean, I'm grateful for how many people have been kind of behind me on this. But yeah, it was just my first real creation. It's probably one of my bracelets that I've done. just a very like a small version of what looks like a rope, basically.
In gold. You
Well,
worked in.
no, not initially. So my first creations were really mostly stainless steel and titanium. Titanium is fantastic because you can also make it in some different colors, and it's very light, so it lends itself really well to jewelry.
Who knew that? Wow.
Did horoscopes influence you? I mean, do you follow that
No.
sort of thing, or it's just the wonderfulness of the stones of each month?
So, well, the birthstone thing was more of it was actually a request because I had learned how to do that sort of captive jewel pattern, and I used a ruby colored Swarovski. And I remember my mother had been visiting, and she's probably gonna laugh that I'm telling the story.
Hi, Mom.
She came by. She saw my jewelry kind of hanging out, on a rack, and she saw, this was the Oculus birthstone, and it was steel, and it had a ruby in it, and it was just that. It was the Oculus pendant with a ruby colored Swarovski, and she wanted it. She said, "This looks beautiful." And I'm like, yes, you can take it, wear it, enjoy it.
Wow.
And it came up to another family member. Oh, do you do those in other colors? And, and it just kind of progressed to, okay, I can do one of these in every birthstone's color in like a Swarovski crystal. And I can do them in such a way that the crystals, they look great, but they're also, it's not like using the precious stone, which in some cases can be more expensive. And at the time I was just starting out.
Way more expensive. But now you had every relative in your family probably knocking at your door. Jay, I want one of those.
I had a few requests, and so I, as the good family, the good son, I made it happen, and then it just started picking up from there, and trying different things, experimenting with different patterns that I had learned, and then just kind of freestyling it, I guess. And then the necklaces started to happen, and that's
have you brought them to the world yet? Or
I mean, I have things on the website where I've been, and
beautiful.
Occasionally I wear things out. I wear my pendants and bracelets and things out. But yeah, I haven't really had any sort of public show or anything like that yet. It's been very this is all very new and very, very fast. So.
And I love it because I feel like we're jumping on. Triversity Talk is here with you tonight, and promoting what you do, which is so incredible. And
thank you very much.
Let's face it, you're an entrepreneur. You were forced, and I love stories of entrepreneurs. Because it's real easy. There were some people that were completely unaffected in terms of their job by this pandemic. I was so affected. All of my creativity. I didn't go through what you did, Jay. Within like 24 hours, I was creating live stream projects. I had never done that before, but I was so angry that every single thing that I had worked decades for went away overnight. March 12th, we were shutting New York down, and guess what? You've got nowhere to run to, nowhere to hide. There was a site on Facebook that I remember. I used to be an actor, and now all I have is a great big hole. And that was the name of it, right? You can relate to that. And everybody who was on there was someone that was, connected to the arts in some way. And it was helpful, at least, right? Because you were talking about being an extrovert. Now we're all isolated. It was helpful to at least know there were other people out there going through the same thing. I wish we had known you then, Jay, because there was a whole group of us that had become friendly 6 weeks before the pandemic. I don't know if you realize that, Evan, but it was 6 weeks before the pandemic happened.
Yes.
I didn't know this guy from Adam, but there were probably 20 of us that for whatever reason, the universe put us together. And to this day, I don't know why. And those people were the ones that kept me going through the entire pandemic. We did everything on Zoom. We did what we could live in the streets. But especially when you're an extroverted person, what could be worse? But you took your power back by the jewelry that you created. And that's, that is extremely commendable. Now, is it challenging? I know you do custom pieces. Is it challenging, dealing with people that you make custom pieces for?
Well, because this is very new, I haven't had to deal with too many personalities yet. But I imagine that you have people that have very specific needs and specific wants. So I'm trying to work out some of the kinks now. Hey, if somebody has this question, how do I deal with that? Things like of that nature. In particular, I know how some of these are geometrically, and they're not structured the same way as a traditional cast jewelry bracelet or necklace. So there's definitely certain things that I won't be able to do. But I'm always very upfront about those things.
You tell your customer that, right?
Always. And I'm actually working now on, so I deal with sensitivity, like hypersensitivity sometimes. And I notice that if I'm wearing a fabric that's too scratchy or too tight, I notice it and it bothers me. So one of the things I'm working on now is I field test, the designs. And, on a hot day when I'm wearing a bracelet that has a clasp and I'm noticing that, ooh, there goes the lights. And I'm noticing that this is irritating my wrist. This could irritate somebody else's wrist.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's things like that now if I know that the client has, they might want to wear something that it might make them uncomfortable if it's too tight. I'll make it looser, or I'll suggest a different clasp that can be used so that it's not irritating against the skin.
That's so great that you're sensitive to that, because, it's that old adage, beauty knows no pain, but there's nothing worse than putting on a bracelet and having it cut off your circulation. Or earrings. I don't have pierced ears, so my earrings are all clip-ons. Mm-hmm. They always have to be comfortable. No one wants to wear jewelry, because let's face it, what you're doing, you're adorning your customer. You too, Evan. You make these beautiful headpieces to make a person feel great when they're wearing it. But I really feel it's twofold, right? Like, Evan, if you put a crown on and it's cutting off your circulation and leaving indentations in your head.
Yes, it's happened. It's happened. Like today, I made this leather number, and it's just perfect for the weather and everything. It's like, I'm not going to wear a crown today with rhinestones and clusters.
Right.
Sometimes
you'll wear leather on a 90-degree day. God bless you.
It's very light, very light.
A light leather. But I do think it's an important thing to talk about, what people need that'll make them comfortable. Because I personally feel, and, because I work in the fashion industry, one of the things I do is I'm a fit model. I have to make clothing that not only fits my customers, but you don't want the armhole cutting. And the worst thing, right? They call it lift. It's like you go to lift your arms in a jacket and you're like this and you can't go any higher. Mm-hmm. There is nothing worse. Absolutely nothing worse for people. But I've never heard a jewelry designer say, what you just said, that you consider that because you're a sensitive person.
And I wanted this because it's so individual, and this is hands-on. This is one at a time. They're a luxury piece. I want somebody to confidently go, okay, I'm going to buy this luxury piece, and I'm going to make sure that I can wear it and that I can enjoy wearing it. And if I'm going to go out dancing, or if I'm going to go out on a summer night, I want to have confidence that what I'm wearing, I'm going to both look good and feel good in, and not constantly worried about, okay, is this riding down, or is this poking me, or is my neck itching? Because these are all things. A tag out of place can sometimes drive me nuts. So these are things that I just, down to the smallest thing, it's just my nature.
That's taking your own idiosyncrasies and thinking about other people. There's jewelry that, okay, you know what drives me crazy? Great. This is like jewelry therapy here tonight. What drives me crazy is when you get a necklace and, it's got a teeny tiny little clasp in the back, and you manage to do it right. You look in the mirror and you can kind of clasp it in the front. All right. And then you come home, you've been out dancing. All you want to do is get that sucker off your neck. and you can't
Yes.
get it undone, right? Have you ever been there, Evan? Has that happened to you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I mean, I just recently got a chain for this my Navajo necklace,
Oh, that's beautiful.
but I had to make sure that I could do it by feel, figure out how to undo it easily and where it was, and I had to practice. So,
But what good is practice when you've had 3 cocktails? How do you get the thing off of your neck?
sense memory.
So it's funny, I had brought a couple pieces aside to show you, and it just so happens that one of the things that I was considering was what happens, with these, these opulent necklaces when you're trying to fumble with putting it on and off. And one of the places that I get my supplies has their own clasp that, let's see if I can get it here. So it sits.
Yeah, just hold it right up. Oh, good. We got your
much like that. And then all it is you push the button and you take it out, and it just hooks right in. It's held together by a magnet. It's so if you have any sort of grip issues, or you just want to come home and you just want to take it off, it's off, it's on.
And let me ask you, is it really good once it's on, you think like you can dance and twist your neck?
Well, and for the necklaces, it's the weight is being kept on it. So you actually will have to, push the specific, the notch there and unhook it. So it's just easier for, especially with a piece such as like where it's, these big heavy necklaces.
It's such a beautiful piece too.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. And we got a good view of it.
And you want to be able to just take it on and off. So when I found that this existed, I was sold. I'll take it.
I've never seen it. Evan, have you seen one of those before? That clasp?
No, not that. I mean, I've seen other kinds of magnetic clasps that just go.
Okay.
But I like that. That one gives me more confidence. That one.
I had considered the magnet clasp, but when you're such a heavy necklace, I felt like it was not conducive. And if you're somebody like me, that's you're conscious of what's on, you could knock it off, and that's like dropping your glasses while dancing. It's.
Well, and as a performer, we're all over. As performers, we're all over the place and moving like nuts.
You're putting on costumes, or you're out on the dance floor. I had a necklace that was magnetic. It flew off. And I didn't realize it had, God only knows, it probably hit somebody. But it flew off and I never found it again. Yeah. I am not, when I first started getting jewelry with magnetic clasps, I thought, how cool. Not a fan. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. So, Jay, I don't know. That's why I love meeting people at parties. And I met you at the Q Club, which was very cool, at the infamous Tim Moss birthday extravaganza. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on Long Island.
Okay, so you're Long Island boy.
Long Island.
Which town did you grow up in?
Comac for most of it.
Oh.
And then I moved around a little bit as I was, getting more into adulthood and jobs and such. So
Comac was a bit out there, a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit out there. Yeah.
We're all New Yorkers here.
I'm much happier out here, though. That's for sure.
What, in New York?
Oh yeah.
New York.
Where are you?
I'm in Queens now.
Oh, nice.
Along with everybody else that we know. My daughter is apartment hunting. She's looking out there too. There's so many great things to be said about Queens, but Comac is a bit out there, on. What fork is it on again? When you talk about Long Island, you got to talk about the fork.
Not that far. It's not that far.
Right.
It's I mean, I'm terrible with where it is. Other than it's not too far. It's not too far east, but it's not quite the center. It's
wow.
Yeah. It's just.
There you are in the bowels of Long Island. Not quite far east, not quite far north. Really not in the middle either. So, you have beautiful gauges in your ears. You painted body paint. Yeah. What was it like for you growing up? Were you a good fit in your neighborhood, or?
I would not say I was the best fit. There weren't a lot of people like me in high school. I feel like I was just telling the story the other day of having Sharpies in my ear as a teenager and being asked to step out of class because it was disruptive.
Okay, I love
seeing
this
everybody.
story.
Huh?
Wow.
This is genius. I love that you, first of all, I love Sharpies. Can't live without them. Always have, like, I'm looking over at my drawer. I have 2 in each drawer. But
Yep.
I love that you put Sharpies in your ears. You were this incredibly creative kid.
I was an oddball right off the bat.
That's great. Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the Oddball Club.
Proud to be a member.
You're
I was-
inducted to the Oddball Club on this show tonight. No, but all kidding aside, right? It's tough when you're a kid, all right, if you're different. It's tough if you're part of the LGBTQ community, because when you're in high school, in New York, it's a little easier in the city, but for the most part, our sexuality is not so well defined. Let's just put it that way. So that and being creative kids, it's very difficult. Were your parents supportive of you?
My parents, I was very, very fortunate to have the upbringing that I did. My parents were always, we love you no matter what. Like that whole unconditional positive regard.
Fabulous.
You're going to make mistakes. We're here for you, but learn from those mistakes, please.
And do you think you learned from your mistakes?
Most of them, I'm sure. I'm sure some of the lessons have yet to come, but I'm doing better. I'm doing better, Ma.
Hi, Ma. I love that
Mom.
you're saying accolades to your mom, who has a beautiful necklace from you and is probably like one of your best advertisements, right, for the work that you do. So when did you come into New York per se, where you graduated? Did you went to college?
I did go to college. I ended up leaving college without a degree to pursue a more creative.
You're a creative
passion, and I was fortunate enough to get into the more technical aspects of television entertainment and things like that.
Nice.
And it kind of set sort of a course for me down the line that would lead me to where I am now. But was definitely not something I could have predicted. That's for sure.
Well, but
Is that your day job? Is that what you do? That's great.
But look, that's the whole point, right? That was not so many people have a pre-planned path. All of us here, creative people, there's not one I know that had anything pre-planned. I mean, you're talking about dropping out of college. My husband is a brilliant creative, and at 17 years of age was doing drawings in Atlantic City of people on the boardwalk. And at 18 had his first big photography client, which was Sears. He never saw college, okay? But he is incredibly creative. And I think that is the point that's being made. You too, Evan. Another kid outside of the box, but we need, right? And I tell this to parents all the time, and I have a daughter, we need to support our kids in that way. You were very lucky, Jay, that, your parents, they got behind you and your Sharpies in your ears. I'm sorry you had me at the Sharpies.
Much to my dad's chagrin.
he didn't like what.
Gotta give a shout out to my dad too for putting up with me for all those years.
Right. The old Sharpie and the ear thing. But if kids are supported in the right way, they go on to do great things when they're creative kids, so that's the lesson. I think what scares me more and more, our world is becoming more and more corporate. When I was in college, it was anti-corporation. Probably you too, Evan. The man telling you what to do, and down with corporations and all of that. And seeing what's going on now in corporate America, from the Gay Pride March is a good example. Why we now have a splinter march, because the Gay Pride March became super corporate. So. This is definitely, I look at it as a threat to creative people in a lot of ways. And I guess I feel like you do, Jay, that, I don't know where it's going to bottom out with all of this. I have no idea. I guess all of us just have to keep doing what we do. When I was reading about you, I just love this quote, "The makings of a maker." Tell me what that means to you and who came up with that. I love that.
I came up with it because I feel like I've had a lot of places that I didn't feel like I fit, and I feel like putting those all together was a fit unto itself. And it's
Yeah.
just a very different facets of how I do things now and how I did things then, and everything in between.
Right.
So it's
Right.
kind of been
I love that, the makings of a maker. Well, we all hopefully, right, as we evolve, we discover more things about ourselves, and the things that were not fitting become things that actually fit at the end of the day. And I tell people this all the time: we have the world that we can create around ourselves. I have people ask me all the time about, why are you so involved in the LGBTQ plus? When I was involved many, many, many years ago, very young at 13, there was no plus, right? It might have just been LGB. I don't even think there was a T.
It
There
was
definitely
LG.
wasn't a
It was
Q, right?
LG.
Right. Remember how that was. And, you know, um, it's just been for me an incredibly positive world, and so supportive, with so many amazing people in it. And, you were saying you're an extrovert. You rely on the support, right, of other people, and people that can infuse your creativity. So, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're out of this pandemic, because we're not, but certainly things are a lot more open. Were you able to get back to being more extroverted?
sort of. I'm kind of taking my time with it, gauging social opportunities as they arise. Like, is this something that I'm comfortable doing? But also now having that sort of ability to self-sustain in my pocket as like my tool of it's in my arsenal of dealing with the day to day. So I can go out, and I do go out and do certain things to get that vibe and that. But if it's not something that I feel comfortable doing, I'm still okay being home and doing something by myself.
You are.
So there's that balance now that exists that didn't then. But bringing that to the table when I do go out, it gives me a lot less pressure to just suck it up and deal with the nerves of going into a place during the pandemic, or am I going to have to wear a mask all day,
Yeah.
things like that. Because being a social person and an extrovert, you want to be able to be closer to talking to people and seeing somebody's face and getting a
Yes.
real feedback from somebody.
Exchanging energies.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's all about the energy and eye
Right.
contact and feeling comfortable. And when you're dealing with, okay, is my mask on straight? Am I going to be squeezed in with people that don't have masks? And I'm paranoid. These are all things that go through your mind in this pandemic of whether or not you decide to go out.
Right.
Well, how about your friends, your group of friends? I'm sure that the whole dynamic changed completely during this. It just can't help but do it, because people in emergency situations react, and you'll lose some, you'll gain new ones.
Yeah.
I definitely felt less comfortable with certain people than I had in the past. I felt more comfortable with certain people that I had in the past. When you really lose sort of there's like a superficial foundation for any sort of interpersonal relationship. There's a relationship on the surface, and then there's the relationship throughout and underneath. And I feel like this revealed a lot of that underneath. And it kind of helped,
Right.
You weed out some of the toxicity. Sometimes it just happened naturally, like you fell away from these people and you moved into better habits and better people that will value your friendship and will value the closeness, with or without a mask on, with or without the feeling of distance. They reach out to you remotely, or they just different ways to do things that they're on the same page.
It's really about all being on the same page. And you brought out one of the good things that's come out of this. It really separates the wheat from the chaff, pardon the expression, but it does, because you find out who really, all those people, that group of people I met 6 weeks before the pandemic, are like 100% in my life now. And I'm working with all of them. Evan, you, Tim, Jed. I don't know how it happened. I really
you're a lot pickier now. You have to be a lot pickier about who you have in your life, and so
it's got to be
giving
real.
your energy to those people, and they're giving it back to you. You don't have energy to spare right now. This is the pandemic.
Ah.
Everything you have and you give has to be appreciated and reciprocated.
Yeah.
And truth, I demand that, like, listen to me. I demand, I'm on my soapbox.
You do.
Have transparency, like superficiality, especially in the New York scene. You would tolerate it. I can't even tolerate it now. I have no interest in it. I don't want to deal with people that are of that ilk either.
Yeah. Say what you mean, support each other.
Thank you.
And be accepting about the little stupid things and faults and that they really don't matter.
Right.
We need to stick together, especially with Republicans attacking us.
We know we need to stick together, absolutely. Jae, because we're going into our final minutes. I did want to talk to you about, you did a show called Born This Way.
Well, so that was a group art show, and it showcased LGBT artists, visual artists, and such. And that was something that was out on Long Island. That one of my friends, her name is Anu Anam, and she is an artist and curator herself, and she put together this group of people and supporting LGBT artists. She does things with artists supporting other artists with mental health issues, and I like being a part of stuff like that. Both of those things are close to my heart, and it was just a good way to be part of that and support that and contribute some of my art and get my artwork seen. So really, it was just a very pleasant show. Yeah.
But to also be with other artists that you share a common
like-minded artists. It's like-minded, similar either life experience or values that we all kind of are able to pick each other up with. And creative people, being around other creative people brings that energy in a positive way out. Just like you said, you met these people that are that equal creative energy, and that's what it was. It was an equal creative energy.
Yep. That is really what it's all about. Well, I'm inviting you to Freak Out on Thursday night. It starts at 6:30 at Stonewall. And for anybody that's listening, it's a great show. Jae, you would find a lot of kindred spirits at that show if you can make it. And you will be very entertained by it. This is your platform right now. What do you want to tell all of us out there?
I want to tell everyone to stay creative. First and foremost, be your best source of self-satisfaction. And if you want to do that, wearing really nice, well-made custom jewelry.
Always.
Yeah, I was just, let me know.
I totally love this. And tell us your website again.
My website is www.oddmodcreations.com.
And I have his card right here. If you can see it. I had to use a magnifying glass.
Sorry.
To read it. No, it's not your fault. I mean, I'm just blind as a bat. Although I notice you wear glasses also.
I do.
Can you see your own card?
Well, I also have a magnifying glass. Anything.
You have that right because you do jewelry. But yeah, it's Odd Mod Creations. Your work is beautiful. Continue everything.
Stellar.
Thank you.
And the one thing I love to do before we sign off, I love to take a picture on the computer and wishing you. I love that we're getting you really in the beginning of this path of your life, Jae. So wishing you the absolute best, and stay in touch. Let us know when you do shows. You're probably going to do shows of your work, right? Jewelry shows, I would think.
I'm hoping to. Yeah, it's
great.
Taking things as they come. Yeah.
Right. Taking things as the makings of a maker. Taking things as they come. I love that. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Evan Lawrence, thank you for co-hosting. Jae, thank you for being a guest, and I hope we do get to see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Good night, everybody.